Obviously, you mentioned there Nigel Farage. This, you think, is why Keir Starmer has brought this up. He doesn't want to just look like Nigel Farage light, but Nigel Farage light might be what people want, or in fact, Nigel Farage heavy might be what people want. This poll shows that he's on track to win a general election.
Absolutely. And of course, one of the reasons he's on track to win a general election is not just because obviously his vote is rising, but because the Labour vote is split between the four. If you actually look at the polls, it's basically 50-50 between, if you stick all the parties of the left, the SNP, the Liberals and the Greens, together with Labour versus Reform and the Tories. So I think that the move on the EU gives him cover, but he also knows that he needs to do something, as you were saying, on illegal migration. So I think they're trying to get that balance right. And Labour MPs are like, yes, we need to do something about migration, but please don't annoy everybody in, everybody in kind of left opinion, because we need them to vote for us as well.
But it's a tightrope, isn't it?
Absolutely.
He's got to walk, Keir Starmer. And just picking up on Nigel Farage, I would say one of the main reasons that his party is riding high in the polls is he is one of the most effective communicators in UK politics. Yeah. Kemi Badenoch, I'm sure, would kill for an ounce of what Farage has got. Ditto Ed Davey, ditto Keir Starmer. He is a very effective campaigner, as we've seen over the decades, and a very effective communicator. And he talks in the way that people down the pub talk, and he relates in that way, which is why, if you're fed up with the political status quo, you look at Nigel Farage and you go, this man is speaking my language. The challenge that Reform have now is we all know what's wrong with this country. They're going to have to set out solutions that work and are probably properly costed to make sure that those floating voters go, yeah, I'll give you a shot.
But Matthew was talking about appealing to the left a bit with this perhaps this youth mobility scheme. Olivia invited reactions from gbnews.com/your say.
Perhaps not Guardian reading opinion.
Well, I would say, a lot of the people getting in touch are saying that this is an invitation of support from the chattering classes, that perhaps Labour has got a lot of that already. How many working class kids, they're saying, on your say, will be crossing over into the continent? And also, we should talk about the changing nature of migration on the continent as well. It might not necessarily be loads of French and Italian kids coming over to work in cafes. We've had 1 million Syrians arrive in Germany in 2015. It's a bit of a different game we're talking about now, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a very good point. The problem I would say to viewers is that, yes, you're right about it maybe being a chattering classes issue, but Labour hasn't got the chattering classes.
Yeah, they've lost those a bit.
It's lost those. We're not quite sure who the 20% who say they're going to vote Labour are.
Yeah.
But it has lost some of that kind of chattering class opinion. I think it would need to be very carefully handled. It would need to be limited numbers. But half of British kids go to university, fancy a gap year, might want to do 6 months. Working in a European country, etc. It could work. It's all about the detail. Labour needs to be seen to be tough on illegal migration and actually on all the family independence issues, which we've heard about this week as well.
Olivia, you can't really do this while also still having the small boats crisis at the moment. To have more open opportunities
and I think the
of
word
migration.
Carefully handled is doing a lot of heavy lifting there, because Boris Johnson came up with something similar, and that was not carefully handled at all.
And the other thing Keir Starmer has to do in order to try and hold on to the red wall and stop bleeding support to Reform is to make people who voted for Brexit still understand he gets why they voted for Brexit. So again, it comes back to the point I made earlier about walking this tightrope. And I suspect at some point he's going to come off.
OK, Matthew, Duncan, thank you very much for your time this morning.
Using the internet without a VPN, a virtual private network, is a bit like taking to the road without car insurance. All it takes is one unlucky moment to cost you a lot of cash. This video's sponsor is Private Internet Access. They are the VPN to help keep you safe. Click the link in the description below to find out why over 30 million people have downloaded PIA to protect themselves online. A virtual private network is an app that hides your IP address and helps keep your data private. When you're browsing the internet at home, you give up a large amount of data to businesses, to shops, and indeed to social media giants too. Hackers have the ability to steal your personal data with ease, including sensitive information such as passwords, keystrokes, and even your personal photos. Private Internet Access helps protect your personal data by encrypting your internet connection to keep your data out of the hands of cybercriminals. And it's not just hackers either to be concerned about. Information can be censored too. When Canada passed their C18 bill, social media giants decided to ban news content on their platforms. But PIA can protect your ability to consume the news and content you love. Private Internet Access is available for Windows users, Mac OS, Android, Linux, iOS, and you can use one PIA subscription to protect an unlimited amount of devices. And we've got a huge GB News discount for you too. Click the link in this video's description and you'll get a massive 83% off PIA. That's under £2 a month, the price of a coffee, and you'll get an extra 4 months completely free on top. Also, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee too. Visit piavpn.com/GBnews to start protecting yourself digitally today.
Look, I mean, what do you make of all of this? Because this is going to actually be a tricky conference, isn't it, for the Labour Party?
It's going to be very, very difficult. Labour are obviously fending off accusations of inappropriate funding or miscollected funding with Morgan McSweeney 750,000. A study in the Daily Mail out today says just 1% of working voters think that Labour have exceeded expectations. They're getting it in the neck on immigration, they're getting it in the neck on cost of living. And of course, Keir Starmer has almost to throw a dead cat on the table, announced plans to have national ID cards, something that wasn't in his manifesto. And now there is talk, of course, of potential rivals appearing, and big name Labour rivals at that. Andy Burnham has been linked with mounting a leadership charge. And just as that sort of died down a bit, Sadiq Khan in the Telegraph is now being linked with the main job. Sadiq Khan only a couple of weeks ago had said that he was looking to do a fourth term, but perhaps in light of recent struggles with the Prime Minister, particularly in the last 2 weeks, let's face it, this has probably been the worst 2 weeks that we've seen for Sir Keir Starmer. Sadiq Khan is now rumours of maybe thinking of leaving his role as London Mayor and maybe not doing the fourth term as London Mayor, but looking for the big seat. Of course, any suggestions of Andy Burnham and Sadiq Khan, they would absolutely have to be found a safe seat. They would absolutely have to be an MP first. But of course, that is only a resignation and maybe somebody stepping aside for them away.
And of course, there's no such thing as a safe Labour seat almost anymore, is there?
Well, no, exactly. I mean, there was talk of Andy Burnham being parachuted into a safe seat. You'd normally have plenty of safe seats after only a year in government for the governing party. What's actually happened, though, is Reform have had this absolutely huge resurgence. And even in the Northwest, even in the North, full stop, and even in parts of central London, really, there aren't necessarily any absolutely safe seats. I'd imagine it's probably easier for Sadiq Khan to get a safe seat in London than it would be for, say, Andy Burnham. But there definitely aren't any safe seats. And then, of course, you've also got the threat of independent MPs, whether that's ones that are pro-Gaza or other issues. Labour absolutely torn into lots and lots of bits at the moment, plenty of factions, and that's just in their own party, let alone with what the voter base thinks.
But the interesting thing with all of this, it seems to be a little bit, at least, tone deaf about where the country is at the moment. You only have to look at the polls to see Labour and the Conservatives well down. Reform on the rise still. I mean, I think the latest poll had they dropped a couple of percentage points, but still well in the lead in all of this. And yet all we're seeing now from all the main political parties is a big attack on reform. Clearly, they're causing waves.
Yeah, I mean, the Labour Party conference in Liverpool this weekend, even though the next election is 4 years away, will be how are we going to stop reform, why Nigel Farage isn't suitable, all of this sort of stuff. What Keir Starmer needs to do is follow through on some of his actual manifesto pledges. ID cards was not a manifesto pledge, and yet that's been thrown onto the table. He's promised benefits reform that hasn't even got past the first stage, but after a backstage MP revolt. He's talked about immigration hugely in his manifesto. It was all smash the gangs. Well, I mean, the gangs are smashing us at the moment. He's made very, very little progress on any of his manifesto pledges, and that's before we even get to the chaos of the economy, where, again, they're talking about further tax rises.
It is going to be fascinating to watch how conference handles him, actually. I mean, as leader, as Prime Minister, everything he says is going to be major. It's going to be scrutinised. He's going to have to walk on stage, and you wonder whether he's going to get as many boos as he will applause. Yeah,
you would normally expect an under fire Prime Minister to have a pretty enjoyable week at Labour at their party conference in terms of getting lots of rounds of applause, lots of support, lots of pats on the back. I don't think that it will be a particularly warm welcome for him at party conference. And also, let's be honest, Keir Starmer's not necessarily the most natural public speaker. I don't think it's something that he relishes doing these live events. And really, I think he's lacking ideas. I think he's lacking momentum. I think he's lacking success. And I think he's really lacking any sense of security in his own party.
Yeah, and then, of course, we've got the budget to look forward to. I mean, you just wonder what they are going to say that's going to sound positive and give the general public any feeling of confidence at all.
Yeah, and all the time there's these swirling discussions of this £750,000 party funding that's been in the paper. Keir Starmer, just a few years ago, when he was an opposition MP, was working to help prosecute MPs' expenses. It's one of the big things he's built his career on, being, the adult in the room, doing things properly, expelling corruption. And yet all we've seen, whether it's Tulip Sadiq, Angela Rayner resigning for stamp duty, all of these other sort of things, is that he hasn't got his house in order. They haven't been making manifesto pledges stick, and they haven't really got any momentum. And, of course, his own MPs, his own party keeps making these unforced errors.
Yeah.